Everybody, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
I thought I'd lost everybody for a second.
Grant, I can hear you, but the moment more than one person talks, it's just a screech. So people need to be muted unless they're the ones talking, please.
Yeah, well, we had a bit of an issue, but now I think we're good to go because I muted the, I found out how to mute.
That's part of the issue, but the moment you talked and Natasha turned on her mic, all I got was screeching.
Okay, I'll be quiet. So I'm just going to start, I'm going to start the recording again. So we're recording, so I guess it's, I'm going to mute myself. And
okay. So it's 7:06. We'll call to order. We have the agenda. I did notice one change we'll need to make on the agenda under new business. There are two 8.1s. So we'll just have to modify from there. Any other changes to the agenda? Seeing none, no one's got their hand up. All right, I'll look for a mover, please. Moved by Councillor Barlick, seconded by Councillor Loreen. All in favor? I see 3, 4, 5, excellent. So moved. Declaration of conflict of interest or pecuniary interest. Seeing none. Grant, you'll just have to let me know if the folks on the phone say anything. None?
Grant, if
Yeah.
we're on the, if
Paul,
we're on the phone, then we can't vote.
okay, Paul's on the phone as well, so I'll leave mine unmuted and just not move my mouth.
Okay, thank you.
There is also a way to just provide a thumbs up reaction. There's a little smiley face that says reactions somewhere. Clarence did that, and it shows.
Yeah.
I noticed it has thumbs up now too.
Yeah, it shows up on screen so Natasha can see it, and everybody else as well, for those who are on video.
All right, thank you. So with that, we'll move on to delegations, presentations, or petitions. Tonight we have 4.1, the RCMP report. Again, because we don't have RCMP on the line, it is a review. If there's any questions, please let me know and I can submit them to the RCMP. Was there any questions or comments on this item this evening? Councillor Barlick?
Just reiterate once again, it's happy to see 5 busts for drug trafficking, and this is a February report, so glad to see those numbers. Keep up the great work.
Thank you. Anything further? Seeing none. On to public question period. Of course, this being our first test of using Zoom and being online, we do not have any public with us right now other than those who are watching at home. Of course, as usual, if you have any questions, please submit them to the town so we can try to get them answered for you. We'll move on to item number 6, adoption of the minutes. 6.1 is the minutes of the March 9th and 11th, 2020 council meeting. I'll look for a mover, please.
I'll move acceptance.
Moved by Councillor Salatke, seconded by Councillor McBride, Councillor McBride. Any questions or comments on the minutes? Councillor Salatke.
I just noticed that it says Councillor Gary McBride as the person who is chairing it. Have we switched over to the secondary with the new deputy mayor and assistant deputy mayor, or is that next month?
So April 5th was our official halfway point. So now Paul will be deputy mayor and Gary is assistant deputy mayor. I'm not sure if the paperwork's been done yet for signing authorities, but that's something that'll be taken care of internally. So. Councillor Barlick.
Thank you. I know this is under action items as well, but I just thought maybe I'll mention here, we could talk about it under action items. Just with respect to the Peggy Curtis Field and the ball field replacement, obviously there's likely going to be delays and it's acknowledged in the action items. Do we have any sense of how long we think that may be at this point? Is there any idea?
I'll let SAO Hood take that one if he may have some information.
I haven't been in contact with infrastructure for the last month. So I'm not, they had assigned a project manager, but given all the other issues that are happening right now, I will try and give some contact to them in the next, within the next week to find out what the status is.
Great, thanks. I appreciate that, just because this is sort of one of our marquee items we're trying to get done. So thank you. I
Thank you.
understand that there's delays.
Anything further on the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor?
Yes,
So moved. On to 6.2, the minutes of the March 12th, 2020 Bylaw Review Committee meeting. We'll look for a mover, please. Moved by Councillor Salatke, seconded by Councillor Loreen. Questions or comments on these minutes? Seeing and hearing none, I'll call to a vote. All in favor?
Yes.
Okay, so moved. On to 6.3. Sorry, I'm just moving my screen here. Minutes of the March 16th, 2020 special council meeting. Look for a mover, please. Moved by Councillor Barlock, seconded by Councillor Loreen. Questions or comments on the minutes? Seeing and hearing none, call to a vote. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
So moved, thank you. On to item 7.1, the action items list. There have been some dates updated or moved because of the current situation that we're all dealing with. Were there any questions or comments on the action items list? Seeing and hearing none. With that, we'll move on to item 8 for new business. On the agenda, it had 8.1 as a COVID update provided by SAO Hood. Is that where you want to start, Mr. Hood?
I can give a brief update. So far now, we've had approximately 75 people come through the self-isolation center. That's only people from outlying communities. There's been a couple under special circumstances from Inuvik have also been in there. Currently, we have 19 people at the hotel. 2 checked in this afternoon. They're on their way to Ulahaktuk. They have actually completed their 14-day isolation, but they have to wait for the plane. Other than that, I have to commend our staff, every one of our staff that's been working on this this situation. They're working long hours. They've never complained. They've just been phenomenal. And the kudos have to go to all the staff members for everything that they've done. And the support that we've received from the local MACA office has been excellent as well. Other than that, there have been some issues due to privacy. I can't go into a lot of detail, but other than that, we're still rolling along. We anticipate, based on some information we have, that we will be at the hotel until at least May 15th. And that's really about all I have.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I will just reiterate what Grant said. The team at the town has been amazing throughout this, and just continue to. I'm total kudos to all of you, and I know, Grant, you don't like taking compliments, but it's been a great your team's done a great job, so good work.
if I may, I'd like to add to that. I think our staff is doing a fantastic job. It's Clarence here, by the way.
I'll echo that. There's one extra voice. Great job, everybody. Proud of you guys.
I will pass those on.
And then just further to that, I do have a weekly call with the Minister of MACA, who we know now is the Premier. So if there are any questions that come up from councillors, please let me know. And I can either source the answers for you either through our team or through that phone call. I have that line available to me. So let me know what you're hearing out there or what you're curious about and that kind of thing. And if I can get the information, I'll share it. So with that, we can move on to 8.2, the 2020 CPI funding contribution agreement. Recommendation is that Inuvik Town Council hereby approves the contribution agreement with the Government of the Northwest Territories for the community infrastructure funding in the amount of $1,491,000.
I'll move it.
Look for a mover, please. Moved by Councillor Wood, seconded by Councillor Barlock. Questions or comments on the contribution agreement? Seeing and hearing none. We'll move to a vote. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. So moved. On to 8.3, the 2020 Operations and Maintenance Contribution Agreement. Recommendation is that Inuvik Town Council hereby approves a contribution agreement with the Government of the Northwest Territories for operations and maintenance funding in the amount of $2,627,000. Look for a mover, please. Moved by Councillor McBride, seconded by Councillor Solakey. Questions or comments on the contribution agreement? Seeing and hearing none, I'll call to a vote. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. So moved. 8.4, the 2020 Water and Sewer Contribution Agreement. Recommendation is that Inuvik Town Council hereby approves the contribution agreement with the Government of the Northwest Territories for water and sewer funding in the amount of $1,308,000. We'll look for a mover, please. Councillor Barlock, seconded by Councillor Loreen. Any questions or comments on this contribution agreement? Seeing and hearing none. Call to a vote. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Great, thank you. So moved. 8.5, the part-time and casual seasonal employee personnel directive. The recommendation is that Inuvik Town Council hereby adopts the Town of Inuvik Personnel Directive Policy HR 013 as presented. I'll look for a mover, please.
I'll move it.
Moved by Councillor Wood, seconded by Councillor Barlock. Questions or comments on this one?
It's Alana. I have a question.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, section 8.04, criminal offenses, paragraph C, subsection 1 and 2. The words "your record suspension" have not been granted, has been crossed out with regard to somebody having received a pardon. Why would that be crossed out when the current term is actually a record suspension? Pardon is the previous term and it's been changed to record suspension.
The wording in there is based on what was put in the personnel directive on the advice of, from recommendation from our lawyers, but we can certainly go back and review it. If it's just a wording change as far as terminology goes, but the meaning of the actual sentence doesn't really change, we can just confirm that and change that wording because the meaning really doesn't change as to the intent.
Yeah, my concern would be somebody would argue that in fact a pardon is different legally than a record suspension. So I think you're right, Grant. We do need to find out why the lawyers recommended that and if it makes a difference or not. Thank you.
So a question then, Councillor Mero, do we want to defer this to the next meeting to get that answer? Because otherwise it seems like it was largely consequential amendments.
So Grant, can you tell me if we defer it, can we change this later?
We can always defer it. There is no problem with it because it doesn't have a large effect. Also, given how under the certain circumstances we are casuals. We're not using any casuals at the moment, so we do have time to review it and come back in 2 weeks.
Okay, then I think we should follow Councillor Barlock's suggestion and defer it. Thank you.
Okay, so do we think it was it Councillor Wood who made the motion? Does he rescind his motion, or do we vote it down? How do we move forward in order to defer it to the next meeting?
I think
You
we
can
should
amend the motion to
defer,
defer.
and I'll make that motion.
Okay, so Clarence has made or Councillor Wood has made the motion to defer. So we'll need a seconder then. Seconded by Councillor Barlock. All in favor?
Yes.
Item is deferred to the next set of meetings. All right. 8.6 is the tourism strategy update, which was sent out in a secondary email. And I believe Director Chalice will be heading this one. I'll hand it over to her.
Hi, can you hear me?
Oh, yep.
Okay, so thank you, everybody. I just want to point out that we have a number of projects that are ongoing, and the tourism strategy is one of them, and many of these started pre-COVID, obviously. So I just want to comment that obviously this is not us right in the middle of COVID deciding that we're going to take on our tourism marketing strategy and try and lure visitors here at this time. We are finishing something that we started multiple months ago, and we will be well positioned for when the community and the territory and the country decides that we're ready to welcome back visitors. But I just really want to preface this update that I'm just giving an update to the project because it's something that we started, and the actual strategy we're going to present online on the 24th, should people wish to tune in and see a full presentation. But again, this is not the time that we're welcoming visitors at the moment, but we do want to make sure that we can do the background work and be prepared to hit the ground running when the time is appropriate. Yeah, if you could go to the next page. So just to indicate that we started the process, we hired Destination Think after a procurement process was done. They started with some secondary research. They then did a number of stakeholder interviews. They did phone interviews. We also had a public online survey. They also did in-person interviews, and then we also had multiple in-person public consultation sessions. So from all of those pieces, you can see that we moved through that process, and we're really just in this final stage now where they're pulling together the final strategy and give us some, next steps of where we want to go. We heard some great things from the people of Inuvik, and that is where we're going to begin. If we could go to the next. So what you see on the right-hand side, there's a number of, those are really some of the strong pillars and overarching themes that came out from all of those contexts that I talked about, the interviews, the stakeholder discussions, the roundtables, and the survey. So how natural environment, cultural diversity, supporting our artists and Indigenous culture are really strong pillars that came out. And you can see a few of the quotes there on the left of what people commented, either in the online survey or through their interviews. Inuvik, that place that people dream of going but rarely get to. A land of extremes, a place where you leave your car unlocked, where your children play with other children in the streets, except for right now, obviously with the distance, and where neighbors still stop over to chat. So, that comes from a local person, and that's exactly what makes Inuvik so special. And I think we all can't wait to get back to that reality, and we're excited to go there. And I think the strategy is going to outline not only a overarching plan for us, but also some really boots on the ground, some tactics that our department and other stakeholders can work together to achieve. Next. So I don't know if you're able to read these, but these were some of the key areas. And so they ask, like, how would you rate currently tourism in your community? Or how would you rate, for example, festivals and events in your community? So you can see the range. So some people say, you know what, we don't have very much tourism and we need a lot. So you have some poor ratings. And then we have other people that, you know, 2 people said tourism is doing great and would designate it an 8. So you can kind of see it's actually all over the map. But it allows us to say that we've got room to improve and we have room and areas of growth in tourism and festival and events. I think that's a really strong foothold for us and something that we're definitely going to explore as we move forward. Sorry, it's really odd to not control the slide. So other areas, economic development. And again, this isn't necessarily, so when these questions are asked, it's not necessarily what is the town of Inuvik as the municipality doing or rating, but in general, in Inuvik, how would you rate economic development in the community? So you can see, obviously, I mean, I think this is top of mind for everyone, especially right now. It's certainly a challenge and it leaves us lots of areas to explore. And quality of life. So these just are a few, again, key thoughts that came out of all of those discussions. These certainly aren't all of them. I will not read them all. You can read them and I will be sharing again when we do the full strategy. And of course, that final document will come to council, but these are just some of those pieces. Could you go back one? Okay, sorry, forward.
We didn't
Okay.
practice.
I know, sorry everyone. Okay. So again, this is very small and difficult to read, but what you see is it really comes from starting from a mission and a vision and looking at what these pillars are. So understanding how we need to attract the right kind of visitor, we need to strengthen our marketing practices, and we really need to be advocates for change. And then under each of those pillars, certain areas that we want to explore more and move forward in terms of where will we target our marketing efforts, where will we target our messaging, and some of these things will include festivals and events, FIT adventure travelers, Arctic and Indigenous tourism, meetings, conventions, and positioning Inuvik as a scientific research hub. So we'll just keep moving forward. And normally these are sort of internal documents. So realizing this is being broadcast on YouTube for the world to see, we don't want to show all of our secrets in terms of how we will be positioning Inuvik, but we certainly welcome people to come here when it is appropriate. So just wrapping up really quick, next steps, we've received, it was wrapping up quicker than I was ready. Okay, so we've received that strategy document, the initial pages, and they're looking at design. We're providing feedback by the end of the week. So certainly councillors and mayor offline, if you want to have any final comments or questions, please send them in an email and we'll get those addressed in the next sort of 48 hours. They'll finalize a final strategy and we're going to do a virtual presentation where we're going to invite mayor and council, but also our tourism stakeholders locally to be present when we present on the 24th. And I don't know if anyone has any questions, but that's all that I had.
Deputy or Councillor Bylaw.
Yeah, thank you, Jackie. That's was a good update. Just curious with respect to the resident and industry survey results. So if my math was correct, we basically had an N of 22 respondents, which is unfortunately a little bit on the low end. But I'm assuming you had basic resident individuals as well as industry, likely tourist operators would seem the most likely choice. Do you have a breakdown of like how many industry versus how many sort of just regular old residents participated out of those 22?
Thank you, Councillor Barlick. Can you hear me? Just checking. You can hear? Okay. I do have a bit of that breakdown. I don't have it to provide to you right now, but I can certainly provide that at a later time. I can provide that to council, but we have, I can tell you organizationally who we consulted. We can tell you some of our stakeholders, but then we can also, I can show you some numbers in terms of participants at our public forums that were indeed just residents that had come out. Now, obviously in Inuvik, some of us wear multiple hats, but we had, 30 or 40 people that were out at our public forums as well. So that added to the residents that participated in the survey. And you're right, it's not a stellar high number in terms of doing, valid statistical analysis, but I think it does give us a good indicator when you combine it with all the other sources, a good indicator of where we should be going.
And just a quick follow-up then. So for those groups that you did the direct consultation, so that was an act of reaching out to them, I'm assuming, are those numbers included in this 22 as well?
No, they are not.
Okay, so there's a number that were actually actively solicited that are not included in these results.
That's right. So the public survey was open to anyone, and because it was done anonymously, I can't tell you if one of the stakeholders that we reached out to also then answered online. But we also, so we reached out, we had a stakeholder list that we reached directly to. We also had a number of our stakeholders that weren't able to participate in either an in-phone interview or an in-person interview, but they submitted in paper or on an email their responses to specific questions, and those also is not included in that total that you have, because that's specifically to who completed the online survey. So I can give you a total number, I just don't have that here in front of me.
Yeah, I'd be curious just to see how many that were actively solicited that would add to this input.
Be happy to share that with Mayor and Council.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions on this item? See none. All right, we'll move on to item 9, bylaws. 9.1, the open air burning and fireworks bylaw. Recommendation is that Inuvik Town Council hereby gives third and final reading to bylaw 2650 FC20, a bylaw to regulate open air burning and fireworks. I'll look for a mover, please.
I'll move.
Moved by Councillor McBride, seconded by Deputy Mayor McDonald. Any questions or comments on the bylaw? Seeing none, call to a vote. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. So moved. On to item 9.2, the transportation of dangerous goods bylaw. Recommendation is that Inuvik Town Council hereby gives first reading to bylaw 2651. Oh, I can't even. It's too small.
TR/20.
Thank you. TR/20, the dangerous goods routing bylaw. Oh, hold on. Okay, you're back. I look for a mover, please. Moved by Councillor McBride, seconded by Councillor Salatke. Any questions or comments on the bylaw? Councillor Barlick?
Yeah, it looks pretty good overall. One quick question in 4.1 sub 1. Individual containers of less than 50 kilograms or consumer packaged merchandise. Is that in reference to commercial packaged merchandise? I thought whether it was the right word. Maybe it is. When they say consumer package, that seems to me like it's the customer who's packaged it, as opposed to a commercial business that's done it. And maybe that's just maybe that is the proper language. I thought it may be commercial rather than consumer.
SAO Hood?
Well, basically, I think it is consumer, so that because depending on a package, it could be sold directly to the consumer in a package. So that would be the reason why it would say that is because it is direct from a supplier to a customer, a consumer, and it's in special packaging.
Okay, that's fine. It struck me as a bit odd with that word, so I just wanted to double check.
Okay. Anything further on this item? Seeing and hearing none. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. So moved. So we'll move on to second reading. Recommendation is that Inuvik Town Council hereby gives second reading to bylaw 2651 TR20, the dangerous goods routing bylaw. Look for a mover, please. Moved by Councillor Salatke, seconded by Councillor Loreen. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll call to a vote. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
So moved. Thank you. With that, we move on to section 10, the department head reports. There are no reports for this meeting. SAO Hood, will there be reports for the next meeting?
We will, but just in preparation last week, all our department heads were very busy with this isolation center and that. So, but we will have them for next month or for next meeting.
Thank you. On to item 11, the information items, which holds our strategic priorities chart right now. And I can see already that there's some updates that we're going to have to make to that date-wise. I'm going to guess we're going to want to give it another month or so to see what we're going to have to look at for dates there, as everything's been kind of on hold. Any questions or comments on that item while it's up? Seeing none. All right, on to item 12, council concerns.
Yes, I have some.
All right, Councillor Wood, please go ahead.
I actually have two. The first one is more of a question than a concern, and it's for the Director of Finance or Grant. Are we up to date on all our payments to contractors?
Yes, we have not stopped any of our any invoicing, and our processes that we have done over, and that has not stopped even with the closing of the office to the public. We are still operating under normal conditions.
Yeah, that's what I assume, but there's no reason for any contractor to have payments held back right now.
I'm not aware of any.
Okay, thank you. Now on to my second one. I received this email and I'm going to read it out to you, and maybe we can get some quick answers on this. The person wished to remain anonymous, so here goes. If appropriate, please ask what's happening with the homeless people around town. The loitering and drinking isn't as bad, but it's still a problem. Obviously, there's no proper hygiene or social distancing on their parts. I'm not trying to be judgmental or badmouth them. It's just a health and safety issue right now. Tons of empty liquor bottles near Mountain View and outside the back of the professional building near the Inuvik drugstore delivery entrance. Who's actually monitoring the social distancing and so on? I understand we have an enforcement branch now that Conrad Bates is heading up. Who do we have in Inuvik, or are the RCMP and Bylaw looking after this?
Amanda Delana, can I address that?
Sure.
Okay, so just so everybody knows, through my position with the Housing Corporation, I've been doing a lot of work with other service providers in the communities as to what's going to happen with both the homeless shelter, where residents must be sober, and with the warming shelter, where residents can still be actively drinking or using. And we've worked with health, we've worked with the two shelters, we've worked with the Department of Justice and various others to try to arrive at solutions that would keep everybody safe during this pandemic. The homeless shelter will continue to operate as usual. They have space in there, so everybody has the appropriate distance from each other. They have enough bathrooms. But if somebody needs to isolate because they're being tested, or they in fact are tested positive for COVID-19, they're kept separate from others. And all 7 of their residents are actually currently working, mainly in response to this pandemic. So that takes care of that group. As far as the warming shelter, it is still operating. And of course, every year as it gets warmer, we see more public drinking, people wandering around while they're drinking. It's been a huge amount of work to find a location that we can move everybody to, because the current shelter definitely does not allow spacing between people, whether they're awake or asleep, and simply would become quite literally a hotbed for the virus that came into town. So after a tremendous amount of work, we've actually secured the Aurora College single student residence over by the college. That's where the shelter is going to be moving, hopefully tomorrow. And we're going to take some very unusual steps there. For one, there will be security, and they're also going to try a managed alcohol program, which has been done in other jurisdictions, but not in Inuvik. And this is very similar to what they're doing in Yellowknife right now, where they have 30 residents who have committed to basically staying at the shelter. The residents here aren't being asked to commit to stay. It's felt that that may not work, but instead, 4 times a day, a measured amount of alcohol and a particular number of cigarettes will be given to each person. The alcohol has to be drank there while the staff are there, and then the cigarettes, people go outside and smoke those. And the hope is that people will stay in that area and then come back inside. If in fact people aren't following social distancing in the community, then Councillor Wood is right, but then that becomes an enforcement issue. I haven't seen the number yet to call for enforcement issue. I know the RCMP have been called and have visited a few homes more worried about partying. I'm not even quite sure which website we should be looking on for that social distancing number, but that's how that would be addressed. But it is a concern that people that are homeless and still drinking will be in and out of the shelter. Every time people are coming in, they're going to have to go through the assessment of how they're feeling. Part of that building will also be used. It'll be basically sealed off as you would in a hospital. So some of the rooms will be used for people who are in the community and may need to self-isolate and aren't able to go anywhere else. Any questions from that?
Thank you for that, Alana. It certainly explains a lot. But can you tell me who the GMWT has appointed as enforcement officers here?
I don't know, actually. That's interesting because we haven't found out. I would very much like to know from our point of view as well, from the housing side and also from the homeless side. So what I'll try to do is find that information, and then I'll pass that on to SAO Good and have them share it with everybody.
I can maybe add, if it's okay, some information. I did have a phone call with Conrad Bates this afternoon regarding the situation and their enforcement. And basically, they are taking ENR employees, like their officers, and they are now, they've gone through some training, and they are now going to be the work on doing any of the enforcement. They actually started on Saturday or on Sunday with an individual as far as not isolating properly, and they will be continuing on. They are just getting started, but they do have people on the ground here, basically out of ENR, and they will be the ones that will be able to put out the notices or the however they're going to work on it. As far as how it goes, is like anything else with the situation, is there's a toll-free number, or you can email Protect NWT if they see a situation where they feel that is in violation of the public health order or the territorial state of emergency. They can phone that number, and from that they will do an investigation or take a look. And so that's, and we have been using it even at the in the hotel where we've had some issues. I will say that Protect NWT has been very conscious of what's happening, and on the areas where we've had issues, they have stayed in contact, and they respond very fast.
Thank you for all that. I think you've answered my questions.
All right, thank you. Anything further under council concerns? Seeing and hearing none. Great. Item 13 is in camera, of which we don't have any tonight. So I'll look for a motion to adjourn, please. Moved by Counselor Loreen. All right. Thank you, everybody. I think after
Have a
our
good night, everyone.
this went not too bad.